と犬の戦争になるよ。奴らが僕らに何したか見てみろよ。いい犬だ!
I wish somebody spoke his language.
Wes Anderson has long been interested in taking meta-elements of storytelling and making them part of the main narrative. Whether it's using curtains as a framing device using aspect ratio to denote periods of time or a book for narrative structure, for Wes, any part of the filmmaking process seems to have potential to be brought explicitly into the story. In Isle of Dogs, he does this with translation. Subtitles are something we usually consider to be part of the film's meta. Like posters, credits, or opening production logos, they only exist to the audience as part of the information surrounding the film, not as part of the story itself. But Wes is hard-coding subtitles, translation, and the audience's ability to understand characters directly into the movie. This has its benefits and its downsides, which we'll explore. But is this just a stylistic quirk, or if we dig below the showy exterior, will we find actual thematic significance?
We get the idea. You're looking for your lost dog spots.
There's an intrinsic perspective to any language in a film that's relative to the audience. In Isle of Dogs, Wes chooses to use that intrinsic perspective to his advantage within the story.
お前たちは僕の犬だ。Sit.
Well, I understood that. Sit down.
In the film, Japanese is spoken by most human characters, and English is spoken by the dogs. Or more accurately, it's stated that the barks are dubbed into English. English-speaking audiences understand their communication without visible translation, while the Japanese spoken in the movie is either left untranslated or requires some kind of visible in-movie translator, placing us in the dog's shoes contextually.
墜落したの見た？翼がもげたんだ。僕は自分の飼い犬を探しに来たんだ。
The audience literally has to try to infer meaning based on the behavior and tonality of the character speaking Japanese, just like a dog would have to when trying to understand a human.
We get the idea. You're looking for your lost dog spots.
It's a brilliant way to create scenes where the audience can suddenly and easily imagine how a dog might feel listening to a human talk. I think this was obviously a significant part of the Western director's motivation to set the story within a foreign context. The alternative ways of creating this language barrier between the dogs and the humans would have been messy. The dogs could speak their own language of barks and growls, and this could have been subtitled. But that would do less to allow an immediate identification with the dogs for the audience. The dogs could speak English, and the characters could speak some type of gibberish.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to be in the spelling bee.
But this may be too goofy and require a suspension of disbelief too difficult for a lot of viewers. The third option would be the homeward bound option.
I know that bark. It is him.
Jamie!
Where both animals and humans speak English but ostensibly can't understand each other. This would be very awkward if used for more than a few brief scenes. Within the film, Wes is using the language the characters are speaking thematically. It's not an accident that the character that is one of the strongest advocates for the dogs is a native English speaker. Speaking the same language as the dogs is symbolic of an ability to empathize with the dogs. The Tracy character exists because she's a character that would speak English, the same language the dogs speak. She's there not because an English-speaking audience needs that kind of character, but because she's speaking the dog's language to the other members of the pro-dog resistance.
Professor Watanabe never gave up.
Symbolically taking a position of advocacy on the dog's behalf. Similarly, Atari has a device that allows him to understand and communicate directly with his dog. This creates a connection so strong that he's the only dog owner that tries to find his dog on Trash Island.
I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you.
I think the theme that's buried here is that being able to understand another group makes it harder to treat that group inhumanely. The odd types of on-screen translation that Wes chooses to use may seem like a stylistic quirk at first glance, but on closer inspection there's actually a degree of realism embedded in how he deploys translation. In situations where no translation would be available, the audience usually doesn't get any, and in situations where we would have translation, it's provided similarly to how it would be in real life. When watching an international news conference, translation usually comes in the form of a real-time vocal translator, not subtitles. So this is what Wes provides in the film. And when we'd be reading something in Japanese, if we could, we read subtitles in English.
Unscheduled junior turboprop in severe distress over Sapporo River.
And when we're hearing a transmission from a young boy in the film, another young boy is used as a translator. While I think the way Wes is using language in this film is clever and unique, the unfortunate downside is that it makes the film's perspective Anglo-centric. What's uniquely odd about Isle of Dogs is that even though it's set in Japan, it's created for an English-speaking context. I was able to read quite a few translated reviews from Japanese viewers, and while these reviews were overall fairly positive, many viewers noted the awkwardness and confusion created in the process of translating the movie back into Japanese. The Japanese dubbed version has both the dogs and the Japanese characters speaking Japanese, which harms the perspective of the movie and completely destroys this scene where a device is supposed to be able to enable communication between Atari and his dog, but they can seemingly already understand each other in the dub version since they both speak the same language.
The sole survivor of last week's colossal...
And the in-movie translators simply become useless dead weight for the film when translating it back into Japanese. Use subtitles or a dub here and you're translating Japanese into English and then back into Japanese, making the translator characters completely redundant. Or leave the English untranslated and let the Japanese audiences try to make out the faint Japanese lines in the background with English on top of it. Neither solution is particularly elegant. And because many of the Japanese lines are designed not to be understood in the film by non-Japanese speakers, Wes felt free to leave some of those lines muffled or unintelligible. This left some Japanese viewers straining to understand lines that were never even intended to be understood. And while all the Japanese writing quickly flashing across the screen is just background noise for other audiences, many Japanese viewers reported being distracted by trying to read everything. The film's thematic use of language is preserved a little bit better for foreign releases where the English can be dubbed and the Japanese translated in a similar way to how it's translated in the English version.
Alors tâche de ne jamais l'oublier. Jamais. Tu t'appelles Rex, toi King, toi Duke, toi Boss, et moi Chief.
But because many of the English subtitles are often a part of the actual physical animation, changing them for every language would be nearly impossible, and so in foreign versions of the film, much of the text that exists as part of the world is left untranslated. And these translations aren't vital to the story, but not having them does detract from the experience. But should the limitations of a technique keep it from being implemented at all? Should Wes have used different methods to try to construct the perspective of the film? As we discussed, every way of giving the dogs a language the audience can understand carried some kind of downside, and any film is embedded within a cultural context. For some films like Isle of Dogs, that context might be more integral to the story. I, an English-speaking American, will never be able to watch Japanese films in quite the same way a native speaker would. While a good movie can easily overcome the limitations of experiencing it through subtitles or dubs, it does alter the experience. And even if I learned the Japanese, I still wouldn't have the same cultural context a native speaker would have. But should that stop filmmakers from using that context to tell stories in inventive and interesting ways? Isle of Dogs is an interesting case study of this issue, because it doesn't just use another culture arbitrarily, it does so in service of its story, but in doing so it also makes itself more Anglo-centric. I'm curious to know what you think in the comments. I personally don't think any movie can be made outside of a cultural perspective, no matter what the filmmaker does. But should filmmakers try to minimize that perspective's impact on the story? Or is it okay to use that perspective as a storytelling tool? This video is sponsored by NordVPN. By selecting one of the superfast NordVPN servers in Japan, I was able to browse the internet as if I was located in Japan. This made it easier to do research on the Japanese version of Isle of Dogs and read reviews left by Japanese viewers. A VPN is crucial to have if you want to protect yourself online. NordVPN encrypts your traffic and lets you hide your internet history from anyone who might be snooping, like advertisers, your ISP, or the government. NordVPN is the best VPN I've used, and that's why I continue to use them. You can choose from servers in over 61 countries and be instantly secured and protected on up to 6 devices at once, including your phone. And it's affordable. NordVPN is offering my viewers 77% off 3-year plans. Just go to nordvpn.com/ThomasFlight or click the link in the description to sign up and start protecting yourself. That's nordvpn.com/ThomasFlight and use the code ThomasFlight at checkout to get started today. Thank you so much for watching. I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. If you've been watching me for a little while and you like my content, I'd ask you to consider supporting my Patreon. So if you're interested, go to patreon.com/ThomasFlight and see if supporting my Patreon would be right for you.